is every day you see a picture of Minneapolis's patch where a murder was committed. He's ready to prepare. He's prepared and ready to lead them out of that and into the light.
Elephant in the room, though, Commissioner, is the Minneapolis Police Federation, the union, because the question on the ground is who really runs the department? Is it Lieutenant Crow or is it Chief Arredondo? Is it the mayor? And that is not said lightly, because I think there is a certain element of the police department that advances that idea that the real power is with the union and not with the chief. How do we address that?
I was a 30-year union member of a police federation. Unions have their place. It is instructive to me that two of the biggest unions in the state of Minnesota have come out in opposition to the Minneapolis Police Federation. And I believe while unions have their place as bargaining and protecting their members' rights, this one has stepped out of that role into trying to lead the department. And I don't disagree that is certainly a sentiment that is widely spoken. One of the things that this action by the Department of Human Rights brings with it is the potential for court action that will forever and a day change the dynamics of how that department operates. It will be court mandated action or Department of Human Rights mandated action that will not be subject to collective bargaining agreements typically. These are, if you think about consent decrees in LA and Baltimore and other places, the federal court has simply said, you will do this. It wasn't you will negotiate this, it was you will do this under federal certification. And so I think that is a tool that we have never had in play before. And it's a tool that we clearly wouldn't have done lightly, but no one who saw Mr. Floyd's death can think that it is not time for a new day. It's not time for this change to happen. And I am 100% supportive of Arredondo helping us move that department out of where it is right now and into the enlightened kind of community policing department that we all know that is the right way to do policing and the right way for policing Minneapolis.
Commissioner Harrington, John Harrington, thank you so much for your leadership, for your service, for being with us here today. I know you've got more things to do. I want to thank you for taking this time. I want to invite you back as often as you're available to update our community. These programs not only are going to Facebook Live and YouTube, but they'll also be presented every day on a special edition news roundup on KFAI. So we're trying to make sure that we can do whatever we can to broaden the distribution of information that helps our community move towards healing and restoration. Commissioner, thank you so much.
Thank you. As always, it's a pleasure seeing you, and I'm looking forward to being back again to visit with you, hopefully on happier topics. But until that happens, they don't normally trot me out unless bad things have happened. So I do appreciate you letting me get my voice out there and helping us get the word out. Please stay home during the curfews. Please do call. If you've got experience with the Minneapolis Police Department that can help with this charge, please do call. Please do look around for evidence that people are planting inflammables in your neighborhood. Please keep watch over your neighborhood. Stay with your families. Stay safe and stay well.
Thank you, Mr. Commissioner. We'll see you later on. Thanks so much.
See you later now. Bye-bye.
Okay, so I'm Al McFarlane, and this is our special edition of Conversations with Al McFarlane. Our thanks to Commissioner of Department of Public Safety, Commissioner John Harrington. John Harrington, former police chief of St. Paul, former senator representing District 65, I believe, in St. Paul, and former head of the Metro Transit Police. So he's totally and thoroughly aware of both policy, theory, and practical practice in police work in Minnesota, and the man that the governor has tapped to lead the state's initiative in law enforcement to support the march towards justice, the upholding of justice, not only in the case of the death of George Floyd, but in the aftermath, the public response and the rebellions, uprisings, riots, different ways to characterize those depending on where you are and depending on what part you're looking at. I want to continue the conversation by bringing two other voices that are important. My colleagues and friends, James Trice. James Trice heads the Public Policy Project, does a lot of work discussing how we arrive at public policy that serves community, serves our interest, and helps build equity. And Brother Terrell, thank you for joining us. Justin Terrell is the head of the Council of Minnesotans of African Heritage. You've seen him on TV the past several days. Brother Terrell, great job. You've been clear, passionate, and forceful in your analysis and your statement of expectation of how we must move forward in the community. You guys jumped in late, but you might have caught a little bit of what Commissioner Harrington was saying. I'm going to start with you, James Trice. First impressions, top of mind thoughts about what's going on and how our state and how we as community are responding and need to respond.
Well, thank you very much, Brother Al. I thank you for the work that you do with the Insight News and really helping our community get the accurate reporting of issues that happen in our community. Many times the mainstream media does not cover us the way we need to be covered, and you do that with Insight and with your program. So I want to thank you so much for all the work that you do, and just I wish you continued success, and we can continue to support your work. Also, let me just say what's up to Brother Justin, man. We haven't talked in a while, but I am always impressed by the work you do, man, and you're doing a wonderful job over there at the council. And even though you may not hear from me every day, dude, I really appreciate the work that you do, man, whatever you put in to make sure that policies that are moved at the legislature, you are at the forefront of making sure that those policies that are passed don't adversely affect communities of color, particularly African and African American communities, and to make sure our voice is heard there at the legislature. So thank you very much for the work you do. Let me say this, Al. I think that we are, I think the watershed moment for police brutality in our communities happened when Rodney King was beat. And the reason why I say that is because that was the first time that an abuse by police on Black people was videotaped, right? Was recorded and widely distributed worldwide for the world to see exactly how police treat us, right? And it's like, wow, this is real, because prior to that, we haven't had that. We know what's happening. Police brutality is not new, right? So let's not deceive ourselves into thinking that it is. It's not new, and it's always been going on. And the issue is this: I just firmly believe that if it had not been for the recording of George Floyd's murder, we probably would have heard this on the news as, oh, a Black man got irate up on 38th and Nicollet, or 38th in Chicago. Cup Foods is a place for all kinds of riffraff, whatever it is, right? And that, we had to kill his brother. And nothing else would have been said if that would have been reported, right? So because it was captured on video, and now for the world to see, people like, this is real. But we said it was real then. When Rodney King was brutally beaten by those cops in California, what ensued after that, right? The verdict of non-guilty, which everybody saw. Like, I think, I was like dumbfounded when I saw it at first. I said, "Hey, wow, we caught it now. This is it. I mean, we're going to see some people go to jail. I mean, because how can they escape this beating? I mean, this was real." And when they said not guilty, I mean, the riots, I would say, I don't even want to call them riots, right? I call them uprisings that happened after that. What I heard was reports of saying that was the worst rebellion or uprising, or riots is what they called it, right, in history, right? This, I think, paled in comparison to that, because I think now the rest of the world is joining. I've heard other countries are looking at this saying this is crazy. This is how America is treating Black folk. And I think I don't believe there's a nation on earth that doesn't see that Black people will face hell in this country, right? And so let me just say that. And I also want to say this, and I don't want to, I would be remiss not to send my thoughts and prayers to the family of George Floyd and say, we're with y'all. We're going to be standing with you. Our prayers are with you. We're standing in solidarity with you. And, we wish you the best. And if there's anything that we can do, and I'm sure people are stepping up. Floyd Mayweather is stepping up. He's going to pay for the memorial services for the family. Other politicians are stepping up, or what I say, celebrities and athletes are stepping up really to support the family. This is just wonderful for me to see. And also, let me just say this, right? It is wonderful for me to see the protests, the uprisings, right? That's what I call them, right? That are happening all over this country, right? Sure, we got people who are looting and all of that. That's happening. But I don't want that to overshadow the fact that we have unified uprisings around the country against the system of oppression that has happened far, far too long. I don't even think it's ceased. I think it's been happening since slavery and in Jim Crow. And then we talk about the Black Wall Street, or we think about the Tulsa burnings. We can go on and on and on and on and on. And this has to end, right? The question is, what is it going to take, right? I'm just say this: if these officers, I think they're going to get charged. I don't know what the charge is going to be. I think that's going to happen. I think it's going to go to court, right? It's going to be tried unless they plead guilty and then it's done. But if nothing significant happens to these guys, the country's going to blow up. I'm just going to say that it's going to be hell, and I would hate to, it's going to be crazy. But so I hope it doesn't get to that. My hope is that these individuals are charged, tried, and convicted, and are punished for what they did. Not just Officer Chalmers, but also the other 3 officers involved. They were complicit in this. I call it a lynching, Brother Al. It was a lynching. The killing of Aubrey in Georgia, that was a lynching. And I think that they've been lynching us. Let's go way back to slavery. These have been lynchings, and it's nothing short of that. And I don't know if the police, law enforcement, have the capability to changing, because people talk about maybe it's training, maybe it's recruitment. Well, I don't see Black officers abusing white people in the same way, right? I don't see white officers treating white citizens the same way. So it's not the training. I don't think it's that. I think it's ingrained within law enforcement to view Black people as less than human, and that we're not worthy of respect. In the case of Dred Scott, and I'm saying this, I'm done. In the case of Dred Scott, right? Chief Justice William Taney said in that case that Blacks have no rights that whites are bound to respect. This is what he said. Blacks have no rights that whites are bound to respect. And he said Blacks are of an inferior order, that we're inferior, and that they have no rights, that Blacks have no rights that whites are bound to respect. And I think that sentiment is still here. There's been no statement that I've seen, and Justin, you can help me with this. There's been no statement to condemn or to contradict that statement made by Chief Justice Taney. And I think it permeates all of society, not just law enforcement. I think it's the economic system. I think it's social system. I think it's embedded and woven within the fabric of America that Blacks are inferior, and that they have no rights that whites are bound to respect. For that white woman in Central Park, she knew. She knows that it's inferior. She knew that if she would call the police, they were going to come and either beat this Negro butt or kill him. Why? Because he asked her to, could you please put a leash on your dog? No, Negro, you can't tell me what to do. I don't need to respect what you're saying, and I'm going to make sure that you speaking to me this way, that you suffer some kind of consequence.
Justin, jump in here.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, I think I actually think it's really James. First of all, it's great to see you, brother, and I see Kelvin's on the line too, so it's good to see him. Alicia, I see you. James, you bring up a good point, and I always just keep reminding folks that the lead up to what happened to George Floyd was, we had a sister who got her house broken into with the SWAT team and shot 20 times, and we got the brothers running in the street. And that was an old case that just hadn't been prosecuted yet, right? Because the folks who committed the crime were so booed up with the system. And then you got the white lady in the park. I mean, it's just insane. It's like we expect, we really want to get through hard times without having to worry about these things like this. And I don't know why we forget that any day. I mean, we could, before this thing is resolved, we could have another unarmed dead Black man in the street, in the city, in this nation. And I just wonder, like, how long are people going to be able to tolerate that and just accept that as the norm? And I just personally, like, I can't accept that as the norm. The other thing I would say, James, that you mentioned, you talked about lynchings. I mean, my grandmother told me the story of her uncle in Dime Box, Texas, who had been friends with this white family, and when their kid had turned 13, they said, you got to call little Billy, or whatever his name was. You got to start calling him sir. And he was like, man, I done changed that boy's diapers. I ain't calling him sir. Southern Black man. Man, he didn't make it home. My grandmother's family found him hanging from a tree for a birthday party. And it just shows you, like, the legacy of lynching and how little they value our lives. And in a lot of ways, we are still entertainment for these folks. Violence against our people is still entertainment for these folks. That's why you got white supremacists coming to Minneapolis with bottles full of whatever and threatening folks and chasing and burning down Mr. Afros and trying to, just incite violence in our community. And that's why it's great to see folks like McAfee, folks like Jamil Jackson, Spike, all these brothers out here, sisters out here. Lisa Clemens is putting in work. Al is putting in work. It's great to see folks out in the community. Leslie Badu, salute, just doing a great job of protecting our community right now. And so that's the one thing, and I think is coming out of this, is that because we know the threat to our community, we understand it completely. And right now, what you're seeing is just the community coming together to demand that we protect ourselves, that we do that. And I hope that continues to build. I hope Black folks start planting more gardens. I hope Black folks start learning self-defense, because this is going to be a long fight. And I'll say this and I'll be quiet. We've made a lot of progress this week. We arrested the officer. We did the civil rights investigation. We're going to look at 10 years of the MPD's misconduct and open the books and examine that. Some people think that we're attacking Rondo, and that's not. I salute Rondo. I think Rondo's a leader that we need. I love the fact that he's got Black men and women in leadership in that department is the reason that things aren't worse. And so, this is not an attack against Rondo. Rondo has not been police chief for 10 years. And so going back and opening up the books to look at what's been done and what patterns of behavior, discrimination, and what kind of civil rights violations. Find me a Black person that doesn't want to know the full story. Find me a Black person.
Whose idea was that? Where'd that come from? It's a great idea.
So once again, my role is advisory. So I need people to understand that, like, I'm not calling any shots here, but what I am doing is, advising the governor on opportunities. And so where it came from is a concern about the FBI investigation. The FBI investigation, at first I assumed it's a civil rights investigation. But what it's turning out to be is to be more looking at criminal conduct. And that's not a fact that I'm reporting on. It's just, that's what I've heard. And so looking into that, we started to investigate alternatives to the FBI investigation. So if you remember what happened in the aftermath of Freddie Bell and Michael Brown and some of these other national cases, back then, the AG for the federal government stepped in and did consent agreements with all those departments, right? And we started getting 21st century policing when the Obama administration and things were moving. Well, we don't have that today. We don't have the interest of the federal government. At least they haven't communicated that they're interested in doing a consent agreement with the Minneapolis Police Department. And so what you would get is calls to lock these guys up. You lock them, and hopefully that happens. I got faith in Keith, and frankly, like, I got faith in Keith, but the community needs to hold Keith accountable. He has to get it right. And so the reason for the civil rights investigation from the state is because we knew that we had to go beyond just prosecuting these officers. We have to open up the books. We got to get the full story, and we got to make sure the community knows what patterns of behavior have been have been going on in this department, because the reality is the community already does know, but there's no proof to back it up. So this is a strategy to validate what our community has been telling us, and to hopefully put some structural reforms in place to transform the culture of the MPD, which is what
Was
Rondo
the
has been saying.
proposal put forward by the council or by the Human Rights Commissioner or by the community? Who
So
brought that specific proposal forward?
I would say about that specific proposal was a combination of all three.
Okay.
So we work very closely with the governor's office and with Commissioner Lucero. And so I know that this is something that she wanted to look into right away. You know, I consulted some of our Black legislators. I consulted some folks in the community. I also consulted people who were up against this. When James brought up Rodney King, I consulted the Black-led organizers who came into play during the Rodney King uprising. So like, I feel like, you know, I did my due diligence reaching out to folks to make sure I got as diverse possibilities and opinions on this. And then I submitted my advice to the governor. And keep in mind, I don't work for the governor. I'm an advisor. They can take it or leave it. Right now, I'm really thankful that they're taking it, because I think this governor wants to respond to our community in a meaningful way.
What does it mean in terms of public policy? James Trice, one of the things that Commissioner Harrington said was that the unique opportunity at hand here is that what can come from this action becomes or can be force of law. Legislation specific can come, and legislation and new policies based on that are policies that are not subject to negotiation with the police union. And I said that, asked that question, and he responded based on my saying that on the street, people question who really calls the shots in the Minneapolis Police Department. And, you know, of course, Chief Arredondo is the chief. Of course, the mayor is, you know, in charge. But on the street, and the police don't discourage it, there's a sense that the real power is with the head of the union. It used to be Sergeant Delmonico, now it's Lieutenant Crow. And these guys would walk around puffed up, puffed out, you know, and giving you the impression that they really are the shot callers, not the chief, not the mayor, and that if they don't do it or don't stand for it, it won't happen. So they kind of present that puffery, that idea that they are unassailable, and that because of them, officers can do anything to anybody and do it with impunity. So what does that mean in terms of public policy? Now, this is a real opportunity, is what Chief Commissioner Harrington was saying, Brother Trice.
I think it's so right. I think they do walk around with that assumption of power, because they've been given it, right? Mike Freeman, none of us trust Mike Freeman. Let's just be clear about this. And you know, in that press conference that he did on the outside of I think it was the federal building, and he mentioned that he successfully prosecuted a police officer for killing a citizen. Well, hell, it was the only black police officer, it was the only officer to be prosecuted under his watch, and he was black, right? And it's like, come on, y'all, really? But yeah, let's go back to this point, right? Police Federation runs this. Let's just make no bones about it. And Keith is walking lightly because he clearly understands this. Kroll had called Keith a terrorist in some meetings. He had dubbed Keith a terrorist. Why? Keith Ellison, he's a Muslim. So Keith is walking on really tender ground here, and he has to be careful because they're going to come at him with all the forces to bear. So when we talk about public policy, I think we need to remove the power that they have, the power that unions have over law. The power that they have should not supersede law, should not supersede what needs to happen with officers when they kill citizens. And so what policies can be passed, right? First of all, I think we're on the right path with trying to get officers to have their own insurance, right? I think that's one policy that happens. One policy that I have been trying to move, and I've gotten some attention from some of the legislators, are a drug test of police officers. That immediately, when a police officer does something like this, that each one of the officers get tested, right? Because law enforcement is one of the professions that have the highest drug and alcohol abuse of any kind of profession, right? They're along with doctors, I think firefighters, and then some others, but they're at the top. And to suggest that these officers are not out here hyped up on something is we'll be deceived. We deceive ourselves into thinking that that's what's happening. So I think that needs to happen. I know there's
especially when the narrative is that the victim here might have had some kind of chemical in his body.
Right.
Why shouldn't we raise the question whether the officers had chemicals in their body as well? Yeah. Exactly.
Because they're automatically. I mean, they're trying to say that he had meth and
fentanyl,
else, right? Fentanyl in his system as contributing factors. Well, what do you have in your system? Because let's be honest, they work a highly stressful job, right? It is highly stressful. Now you couple that with this perception that Black people are a threat, that we are dangerous, particularly the Black male is dangerous, and that he's a problem, and that they're going to have to come with all the forces to bear to take this brother down, right? And they come with, and they're afraid of that, and so that heightens this. And so then you add drugs to that. I mean, I've talked to police officers' wives of police officers who tell me that their husbands are hyped up on something when they leave home and go and check in. I talk to people at my caucuses. I go to my caucuses all the time trying to push this, and people support it. And I talk to wives of police officers and ex-wives of police officers that confirm with me that their husbands go out there and they're high on something, whether it's meth or whether it's something, that they're high. Why aren't they also tested to see, is it a contributing factor of why you killed this brother is because you were high? So that's another thing, right?
Let me bring.
I don't know how.
Go ahead. Somebody else is joining. Alicia Smith is on the call. I believe she's here. Alicia, are you there?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't have video. Got audio. I didn't see you there. Here you are.
I'm here.
Yes. I hope you're hearing some of the conversation, and sorry to interrupt you, Brother Trice, but I didn't want to lose Alicia here. Give me an idea of where you are right now, Alicia, and where things are from your point of view. What the newest news is that you're reacting to in community.
So right now I'm on 38th in Chicago, where I've been between 38th and Lake and Minnehaha is where I spend most of my day. And we're just opening up the grocery store, the pop-up grocery store.
Okay.
And so we're getting geared up for that.
Where is the pop-up grocery store? Where is it? And who's opening it?
Morning, how you doing? Doing well. So we have one here up on 38th in Chicago. We have one on Lake and Minnehaha, and then we have one also on we have one open on 66 in Richfield, where we had a bunch of families. The Cub Food was vandalized up that way, and so
how does the pop-up grocery store work? Is it outdoors, number one, and can anybody come up and either buy stuff, or are you giving stuff out? What's the operation?
Can come. Yeah, so it's absolutely free. It's outdoors. We're outside, and anyone can come. Anyone that lives in the neighborhood. We're not IDing folks. We're not asking for money. Everything is absolutely free. It's from generous donors that we have and community members that have reached out to give their support in light of the fact that we've lost all of our places to go buy fresh groceries right now. And so it's set up. It's going to literally be set up like a grocery store. There'll be tables full of products, food, non-perishables will be outside. The cold and perishable items will be inside, refrigerated, for neighbors and community to be able to come through and pick up what they need.
What are you hearing in the evenings now over in your neighborhood over south? Things are quieting down now, and how is the neighborhood separating out, if it is, the activities of the protesters that are peaceful and those things that seem to have another agenda?
So it's quiet, fairly quiet. It's still a lot of folks are heightened their sense of fear.
Your video and audio going in and out right now. We don't have you. Yeah, I don't know if you can refresh. Well, listen, while we can't, well, Alicia's not, bandwidth maybe issue. Justin,
Yeah.
oh, here she is again. Go ahead. And we lost you for a minute there, Alicia.
Okay, so it's pretty quiet. I'm saying like there are a great deal of concerns around safety from the neighborhood perspective. In all of the neighborhoods, there's still lots of people creeping around in the wee hours of the night that put people at a sense of uncertainty. We've had some random like vandalism to personal property and to people's homes and their cars in their neighborhood. But for the most part, everything has been peaceful in the residential side of it. Just people are afraid. People are unsure about what those who had intentions to destroy, if they plan to hang around and damage their neighborhoods, or if their damage sort of is over now that the destruction of the buildings have happened.
Is your sense, Alicia, that the damage was caused by our sons and daughters, our neighbors, our friends, or was the damage done by people that really we don't know and who we would say are not part of our community? I mean, because I can see it where sometimes in my neighborhood, people are so mad, they figure they need to pick up a brick and throw it. You know, it's not the right thing to do, but it happens. So the question is, in South Minneapolis, is your sense that much of this is just ordinary people fed up, or is a lot of it also people that have another agenda? And that's what I'm hearing, that there is an organized, strategic agenda to destroy and to discredit the peaceful protest. But what do you think?
I think absolutely, Mr. McFarlane, you're right on point there. That is pretty much the sentiment when I probably talked to close to 10,000 people over the last 7 days around their security and safety and the perception of who's doing it and the reality of who's doing it. So a lot of these folks we've been able to actually talk to and encourage them to say, if you're here for destruction, there are families that live in these communities. Most importantly, there are small children that don't need to be further traumatized by the violence that is perpetuated in the so-called honor of George Floyd and many others like him that have been victimized or brutalized by the police all across this country that live in Black bodies. And so I think the community is absolutely on edge, and they're aware of that. Many of these folks are outside agitators, right? Like the goal was to incite fear and to destroy, and they were successful at all of those things. It is absolute devastation over here. It is like if you've ever had an opportunity to visit a war-torn country, partial buildings, rubble everywhere, nothing, people wandering sort of aimlessly, trying to figure out how do we move forward and pick up the pieces from here, and how do we rebuild in a place where, the reality of gentrification was already happening. And not the gentrification that just improves your neighborhood, but the kind that's going to price a lot of folks out of here. When these businesses or these developers decide, hey, now this land that I couldn't get a hold of before is prime for picking now that it's down to rubble. How do I come in and now build, a 5-story condo building and price out the average Southsider who can't afford to pay $1,500 to $1,700 for a 1-bedroom apartment? How do we do that? And so that's something that we're dealing with and addressing. That's one of the longer term game plan strategies that we have to talk about. But then we have to talk about the reality of, like, once this is, sort of the fad and the sexiness of what's going on with the movement is over for people, right? Because let's be clear that right now, all these folks, they're in this moment of trend, right? They claim to be here, but we know that this is a long fight, and it is not going to be over in 30 days. We're talking, it may be a year from now. So we're going to see people.
10 years, yeah.
Hey, I'm sorry to jump in. I gotta take off, but I would just say, Alicia, like, thank you for being out there in the community. Like, we see you and we see what y'all are doing. I was out there this morning with Angela Connolly. It is not lost on me that we got Black men in the streets taking care of the community, and we got Black women in the streets taking care of the community. Like, we are showing up like family right now, and I just want to let you know I see you and I appreciate you. I gotta go. James, hit me up. Let's talk some more. Let's talk some more policy stuff.
Alicia, thank you. I'm going to be doing this every day, and these programs are going to be on KFAI as well at 8 o'clock in the evening. So I want you to stay connected to me so we can keep giving the community an update. Thank you, Alicia. Thank you, Justin Terrell. Thank you,
Alicia.
James
Thank
Price.
you, sister.
All right, thanks,
sister.
guys. Bye.
Take care.
Bless you. All right.
All righty. Thank you. And
are we done?
yeah, we're done. We'll see you later.
Okay.
Take care.
All right,
Thanks.
bro.
Yeah, bye.
Stay up now.